You're listening to episode 48 of the Fed and Fearless podcast. On today's episode, I'm speaking with registered dietitian Jennifer Zucconi about the functional lab tests you need to explain your unexplained infertility. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Laura Schoenfeld. I'm a registered dietitian and coach trained in functional medicine with a passion for helping women just like you ditch perfectionism and use food, fitness, and self-care to fuel your bigger God-given purpose. I believe that it's possible to achieve your biggest life-changing goals without the frustration, obsession, or negative self-talk that so many women subject themselves to every day. All you need are the right tools, the right mindset, and the faith to turn your dreams into reality. I'm here to guide you along the way. The truth is that you are so much more than a body, and I'm on a mission to help you change the way you think and act at a core beliefs level so you can transform your physical, mental, and spiritual health from the inside out. Are you ready to become fed and fearless in your pursuit of a healthy, meaningful life? Welcome to the Fed and Fearless podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fed and Fearless podcast. I'm Laura Schoenfeld. I'm your host as always, and today's episode is extra special for me because the person I'm interviewing is one of my mastermind clients. She's someone that I've been working with for almost a year now. Actually, by the time this comes out, it could be pretty close to a year that we've been working together. And she is just one of my favorite people to work with, favorite people in general. And it's just been really awesome to watch her blossom with the passion that she has for this particular topic that we're covering today. So on today's episode, I'm chatting with my client, Jennifer Zucconi. So when I say my client, I mean my business coaching client. She is not working with me on her health. And the business coaching thing is something that I have really been emphasizing this year to start expanding my own impact by helping other really ideally functional and integrative nutrition and dietitian business owners to help grow their business. But my goal is really just to have a bigger impact in general. And I've been working with a lot of different actually at this point, all women. I'm not only working with women. So if you're a dude out there that wants to work with me, let's chat. But I've been working with a lot of women that are in the entrepreneurial space, helping others with their health, helping people achieve their health goals, many of them from an integrative and functional perspective. And it's just been so fun to be able to get to know these women, to get to support them in growing their business, and to get to see the impact they're having on the world. So that's why I'm extra excited about this episode. Like I said, Jennifer is one of my clients, and she is a joy to work with. And I know that you're really going to enjoy learning from her and appreciate her wisdom. So Jennifer Zucconi is a registered dietitian trained in functional and integrative nutrition. She helps women with hypothyroidism and unexplained infertility use the healing powers of food and lifestyle to optimize their hormones and nourish their pre-pregnancy health so they can bring new life into their families. After decades of her own misdiagnoses, struggles with infertility, medications that did not fix her problems, and multiple surgeries, Jennifer found a completely new way to heal. And that's what fuels her passion today as she helps couples get to the root cause of their unexplained infertility so they can transform their dreams about parenthood into the joyful reality of expecting a child. So I know that you're going to get this from Jen from the way that she talks about this topic, but one of the things I love about Jen's focus is it's all about bringing hope and joy into the process of working through fertility challenges, which I think is really the opposite experience that so many women tend to have when they are working on infertility challenges. And it's something that I know brings a lot of positivity and joy to the lives of the women and men that Jen works with, helping them bring new life into the world. So like I said, super excited about this one. I love Jen, and I know you'll love her too. And without further ado, let's get into that interview right now. All right, everybody. I am so excited to have with me here today one of my mastermind clients and one of the nicest people I've ever met in my entire life. It's kind of a running joke in our mastermind that Jennifer is like the nicest one out of everybody. But I'm so happy to have with me Jennifer Zucconi. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Did I embarrass you?
No, but I just have to start it with a laugh because I guess I didn't know it was quite that much of a running joke, but that's good. I guess that's good to be known by, so I'll take it.
Well, when I say it's a joke, I shouldn't have said joke because nobody's making fun of you for being the nice one. But anytime there's any sort of confusion about, like, if I say, Jennifer, but I'm talking about someone else, and it's usually, I think you would know who I'm talking about in our mastermind. Saying like, that couldn't have been Jennifer. Jennifer is too nice. She's like the sweetest person ever. So anyway, it's just, we love you.
Yes, all love that. So happy to be here.
Yay. Well, I am so happy to have you here because I know that you have a lot of knowledge about a topic that just the work that you and I have done together with growing your business, it didn't take that long to figure out that this is where your passion was. But I remember when we had a conversation about what you wanted to do in your business and who you wanted to serve. I just remember you lit up so much when you were talking about this particular topic. And so I know you're super passionate about it. And I know there's a lot of women out there that will really benefit from this conversation, especially because it's one that I don't think gets talked about enough in the conventional medical world. And I know that we're going to, I'm sure, help at least a few people out there understand their fertility better by the conversation we have today. So,
yeah, I hope so.
All of that said, I just want to get started with your story, since I know that you yourself dealt with some of the things that you now help other women with in their own health. Why are you so passionate about helping women with thyroid issues and unexplained infertility successfully get pregnant?
For sure. Yes, both of those were part of my past. Well, part of it though, I didn't know. And that's what my big why is I want to be that person that I wish I had back then to help women before they get so far into a journey that seems one without answers, one without direction, one with just feeling that word unexplained, which I hardly ever write that one when it's not in quotes, because to me, it's not. That just means let's keep looking. We haven't explained it. All right, well, let's keep looking to explain it. And yeah, my journey, even if we go back into high school age, had started my period and ended up stopping and didn't really think anything of it at the time. It was just, oh, wow, that's really convenient. I don't have to worry with this. And never really had it in my mind as something that was wrong until a question came up at a doctor visit. And it was, oh yeah, I don't do that. Oh, well, that's not normal, quote, quote. And of course, the fix was, let's put you on birth control. So I went on birth control. Fast forward, we could go a lot more details there, but ended up even later on having some ultrasounds done on my abdominal area and looking and thinking that I had some cysts and thinking that I needed surgery, which they went ahead and proceeded with. Found no cysts, found a lot of adhesions and things like that. Probably looking back on it now, endometriosis. I was actually never put a diagnosis on myself as endometriosis. I was never given that. But I had a lot of just intestinal mess, let's call it. And fast forward till later, got married, got off birth control to try to conceive. And, you just think, oh, it's just what you do and it's natural and it's just going to happen. And it didn't happen. And then it didn't happen again. And then it didn't happen again. And I was at the time working at a hospital, working around some very knowledgeable doctors and got hooked up with one infertility and did some research into me and whatnot. And he said, oh yeah, you're a mess. And I just kind of stopped and, okay, well, what does that mean? And so it was another prescription and another, that's when I started some Clomid and went down that route. And anyway, like I said, I could go on and on, but ended up conceiving after multiple cycles of that. So I was medicated. I never, full disclosure, I never did go the route of IVF or anything like that. I didn't need to. I did end up conceiving. And truthfully, I'll be honest, I don't think that's a route we could have taken at the time from a financial standpoint, just from an overwhelming standpoint of what that would mean. So the medicated cycles did work. It was after my second daughter, again, a medicated cycle to get her, and lots of involvement with all of that, and lots of regimen, and it just, the joy was just not there. It was almost like a project versus a gift that we were giving ourselves. It was like this project and this thing that I had to do, right? And it became kind of this conquest of, yes, I can do this, because that's just what I did. I worked hard at everything in life and I succeeded. And this was just one of those things. And so it was after my second daughter that actually I was at the physician and did the postpartum check. And he said, boy, your thyroid is not feeling right. And so that started my journey into full-blown hypothyroidism. Never knew it way back. It was probably something that was contributing to my struggles all along, but it was something that was never, ever, ever checked. And moving forward, even from then, ended up having part of my thyroid taken out. And it was just this big, long journey into going back to what my doctor said, you're a mess, and I would keep running back through that in my head, and what made this mess, and how do we clean this mess up, and how do we, all of these things. And as a patient, you just feel out of control and out of, like you want to do something, but you can't. And so that's kind of, again, my why there, trying to help women say, okay, let's figure out the why. Let's go backwards before we move forwards, because there's a lot of things that if you have some of these problems, those forward moving things, those big ticket things aren't going to work. Or if they do work, they're probably not going to be successful because we haven't answered these kind of foundational things first. So yeah, it's kind of a long, convoluted story. I tried to make it short, but there was a lot there. Yeah.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up all the different ways that you were following doctors' recommendations and were really putting that effort in. I think sometimes that's almost the most stressful thing about infertility, is that women are trying so hard when they are trying to get pregnant. It's not like they're just kind of like, well, I can't really get pregnant. Doesn't really matter. It'll happen when it happens. Most women's reaction is not like that. It's usually, like you said, kind of that project where I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to make this happen. And if it doesn't happen, the amount of stress that a woman can experience is pretty dramatic. So I'm glad that you shared that. And then also just the medical side of the equation where, the phrase, you're a mess. I mean, I can't imagine what kind of beliefs that created in you about your body, or about what was possible for you, and what is really, obviously you're on the other side of things today, and you have children, and it's not like this was a sad story or anything, but just the experience you went through where they're telling you you're a mess, but then not really giving you any solutions that are, like you said, actually cleaning up the mess. It's just kind of putting a Band-Aid on the mess. So I love that what you do is you really look into what could be going on, what could be causing this problem, and not just say, well, looks like you're infertile. Guess you're going to need IVF, and maybe that'll be successful. Because as you know, I think the stats are like 40% of IVF is actually going to lead to a pregnancy. So it's not great odds as far as an invasive and expensive procedure.
Yeah. And I think that word alone, the word infertility, is such the end. I mean, that there's even no possibility there for me. It's just infertile. You are not fertile. There's no maybe there. It's just the end. And, I've heard that receiving that diagnosis, hearing that, likens it to cancer. The end. I mean, there's just this, you see this finality in that. And to me, even giving women more hope beyond, okay, that's the medical diagnosis that they had to use because of the time frame you've been trying to conceive, because of maybe your age, because of all these checkoff boxes that a diagnosis code needs. You fit that, but not letting that stop and be a defining word or a defining element to who they are. You already feel broken enough. You already feel unable. You feel inadequate. All of these things, we don't need to add to that. We just need to say, okay, yes, there's a problem. Something's not working like it should. Let's figure out how to make things work better. Let's figure out what's maybe missing. Let's figure out what's not communicating well. Let's get those connections back. and let your body reset itself and kind of get back to doing what we as humans are primed and created to do. And sometimes even just taking that emotional, finite ending kind of word off of it brings a little bit more hope. And I hope that that I can provide that too as a possibility for all that can still be ahead.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, I would love to talk a little bit about your philosophy on nourishment for fertility, since, again, with a lot of these conventional fertility treatments, they're focusing on overriding the body's systems or forcing pregnancy to happen outside of the body's capabilities. And I'm not, listen, I think I need to put this little asterisk in here that we're not saying that IVF is wrong or that, fertility treatment is wrong. It's just, from my experience working with women with fertility challenges, a lot of times that's where doctors go right to, and they don't do the work that is necessary to figure out why the fertility issue is happening in the first place, which is exactly what you were just saying. And again, this concept of nourishing your fertility is something that, even if you end up needing some kind of assisted reproductive technology, you're going to have a much higher likelihood of seeing success with those treatments if you do the things that Jennifer is going to tell you about. So, Jennifer, I know that you have 6 different elements of whole body nourishment. I would love to hear a little bit about those and maybe some tips on how a woman could start implementing those elements to improve her chances of pregnancy, no matter where she is on her fertility journey.
For sure. Yeah, the way I kind of describe nourishment, and I have this visual that I give people, so I'll just kind of create it verbally here. But if you can think of a flower, kind of a simple daisy flower with a center circle and then 6 petals around it, and the center being nourishment and everything that feeds into that. And one of those petals, obviously we start with, it's something we do every day, multiple times a day. And as a dietitian, that's what people think of you as, is food, right? And that's nutritional nourishment. Of course, it makes a difference. Of course, it's going to impact our health in positive ways, in negative ways. And, that's 100% a part of the equation. But if I give you a healthy plate of food 3 times a day and say, here, this is your ticket to health, yet we have all these other elements of our life that are just in shambles, whether it's relationships we have, or we're not moving our body at all, or mentally we're just stressed and in angst and wrecking our mind, we're not nourished. And that's what I really encourage at the very get-go, at the very start of working with a client, is let's take a step back. Let's wide angle this lens instead of focusing on one little area of your body or even just the end of your fork. Let's look at you as a whole. And so that petal, all these petals come together then. So we've got, of course, got nutritional nourishment, which is a big part of it. Then there's physical nourishment. How are you moving your body? How are you exercising? Are you exercising too much? Are you moving not enough? Where is that good spot for you hormonally, mentally, using that as a way to fill your body with that joy and that energy that you need. And then emotional nourishment, that's kind of lots of levels there. When we're talking about a fertility journey, to say it's an emotional journey is not even scratching the surface for some, especially if we're dealing with pregnancy losses or really, really deeper emotional needs there and deeper emotional kind of ways that the journey has impacted you. Using that to emotionally nourish yourself in different ways. And that's a very individual thing. I don't say, here's your 5 steps to emotional nourishment. It's kind of, where are you? Where has your journey taken you? Where do you want to go? And whether it's something as simple as affirmations and gratitude, or whether it's a little bit deeper in terms of, some deeper, I don't want to call it meditative states, but just using different types of, kind of emotional resets and really time to introspectively look at yourself, maybe with your partner, where are you both at on this journey? Because this is, when I talk to couples too, this is you. This is not you singular, this is you plural. And that's a very important part of this piece as well. So nutritional, physical, emotional, mental nourishment kind of overlaps a little bit with emotional. But to me, the mental nourishment is a little bit more individualized into what is it that we can start our day with to kind of reset our mind? How can we end our day to, kind of encapsulate our day and see the joy in it, even when maybe it wasn't so joyful or happy along the way. So again, very individualized ways there because everybody needs and benefits from different things. And then relational nourishment, where are you in your relationships, not just with your spouse or your partner, but with friends, with family? Where do we maybe need to distance, ourselves from some people who are maybe not making this journey as joyful as it could be with you? What are some things that we can say to them to still show love, but to say, you know what, right now I need some space, and to say that in a loving way, but to, again, protect yourself mentally and in all these other ways to nourish your relationships. And then lastly, again, a very individual one for people is spiritual nourishment. Never do I ask anyone to conform to some type of belief or system of faith, but I think it's important that we all have a reason to know that there is a greater purpose in our life, that there is someone who said, you are worthy of being here. You are worthy of creating new life within you for your family. You're having some challenges, yeah, but we're here to expand this journey together and again, a very individualized thing, but a definite way that I think can nourish ourselves and along with our partners to make it, again, another kind of more of an encapsulating of seeing your body as this whole picture rather than just, a great plate of food or perfect lab tests or, a great workout, something like that.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And like you said, we're not saying that nutrition isn't hugely important. The day of this recording, we actually had an interview with Lillian Eccles, who's a prenatal nutrition expert, and she shared a lot of wisdom. And it's amazing how deep you can go into that topic, right? Like, I'm pretty sure we spoke mostly about nutrition, micronutrients, prenatal vitamins, that kind of thing. But I love that when you're working with your clients, you zoom out and you really look at the full picture, because it's not just food. Food's huge, but it's not always enough to see the result that somebody wants to see. And unfortunately, if somebody believes that, what can happen is that they end up overemphasizing food, possibly even developing disordered eating habits because they're so obsessive about eating the perfect diet, and they're missing those other elements that do play such a huge role in the fertility journey. And I would argue in the journey, and listen, I'm not a mom, so this is totally vicarious, my interpretation of this, but I feel like becoming a mother or having a child, there's so much emotion and like change that you have to go through to become a mother, that a lot of this stuff, I'm sure the work you do is actually preparing a woman to be a better mother, not and when I say better mother, this isn't a competition, but to be able to enjoy motherhood and to feel like she is being the kind of mother she wants to be, because she's not just worried about the food that she's eating or, like you said, how much she's exercising. She's really caring for herself as a whole person.
Absolutely. And you bring up a great point, because I do actually weekly work with a group of women, local women who are mothers to be or who have recently had their children. It's a home where they live, and they're in all different stages of pregnancy. So, like today was my day to go actually. And one of the new ladies there is only 9 weeks pregnant, and a couple of them have already delivered. One is getting ready to deliver probably this week. So we've got this big span of nourishing your life through, your baby through your own body. And exactly that is the women who are, I might be talking about prenatal health and while you're pregnant, but the women who have already had their babies, we funnel that into how important it is to your baby's going to see you doing this. And even if it says you talk to her while you're feeding, and about good foods and about good ways of living, of nourishing your body, they're going to begin modeling what we do as parents, especially in those early days, and how important it is that we nourish ourselves. So we are kind of that put your oxygen mask on first, right? We've got to nourish ourselves as people, as friends, as mothers, as spouses, to be the best we can for that other person. And especially when it's your child. I don't think that there's some end to this, that once you get pregnant or once you have your baby, yay, you're all done. Don't worry about anything anymore. This goes on forever. And I think this is important for everyone to see, that they can, again, give that gift to their children. So yeah, great point.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I want to talk a little bit about thyroid health as part of this, because I know that I kind of laugh because you would think at this point there would be more information about how thyroid health works and the things that contribute to thyroid health. And it wouldn't just be this like, TSH is high enough, put them on medication, that's thyroid health, quote unquote. And that seems to be the experience that a lot of my clients have that are dealing with, like you had amenorrhea, infertility issues, that kind of thing. And I feel like the thyroid is this like completely misunderstood, sometimes ignored element of the fertility journey that so many women, like you said, they're not getting tested. Nobody's talking to them about it. With thyroid medication, my perspective is there's a lot we can do without medication, but if somebody's actually hypothyroid and they want to get pregnant, like medication has to be a part of the conversation, because of the risks to really the pregnancy if they aren't in a healthy state with their thyroid. But all of those elements that you mentioned can also play such a big role in thyroid health. And those are ones that I'm sure most doctors are not talking to their patients about. So because you are the expert, I would love to hear from you why a healthy thyroid is one of the most important factors in optimizing a woman's fertility.
Yeah, great question. And I do wish it was front and central and center stage when it came to not just examining prenatal health, but women's health in general, because it's a very ignored piece of our whole body puzzle. And the thyroid gland, as I kind of, nickname it, as it's been nicknamed before, not by me, but this master gland in your body, it is such a regulator. It is such a thermostat, if you will, in a literal sense, really, for temperature and control. But it is such a regulator of everything else kind of downstream. And, I'll prelude it with, you mentioned TSH. TSH, so many people think, my TSH is quote fine, quote normal. Well, we have to remember TSH is not a thyroid hormone. It's a brain hormone. It's how much is your brain, your pituitary, communicating with your thyroid to say, hey, wake up, do your job. It's kind of like somebody knocking at your front door. If they knock and you come right away, you're alert, you're ready to go, you're doing your thing. If you're asleep, if you're in the backyard, if you're, they're going to knock louder, your TSH is going to go up and tell your thyroid, do more, do more. So a rising TSH is a signal that there's been a thyroid problem for a long time. Your thyroid gland is very, very resilient. We cannot live without a thyroid gland. So it's got to do, well, you can live without one. You have to be supplemented, thyroid hormone. So I shouldn't say that. You cannot live without what your thyroid gland does and produces for you, the thyroid hormones. So without that, we would not survive. And so it's got to be very, very resilient. It takes a long time for the thyroid gland to truly just totally, kind of peter out. And so this TSH can be going up and up and up for a long time, for decades, really, 10 plus years before there's truly a problem with the gland itself. And most physicians, when they're just looking at TSH, and we wait for that TSH to rise. Well, by the time it rises, there's probably been a problem going on for so long. And when that thyroid does slow down, when there is, whether it's glandular or whether it's cellular hypothyroidism, there's a whole nother discussion on its own, which we don't have time in this conversation to go into. But for whatever reason, if the thyroid gland is not able to either produce, or your cells are not able to receive that thyroid hormone and use it, there's some other systems in your body that are going to be shut down. And your thyroid gland these are hormones. They're communicators. They are things that go out and do one thing, that go and do one thing and do one thing. They kind of have this chain reaction. And one of the primary places that your thyroid gland will talk to is your reproductive system. And if your thyroid is having a hard time keeping up with you, and having a hard time even keeping you going and powered and energized and metabolism going, it kind of tells your reproductive system, okay, we're not really able to take care of her right now. So we've got to self-protect. And one thing that we don't need and probably can't even do and help survive is another human, because this one's hard enough as it is. So let's just turn down all of those hormones. Let's stop producing eggs, or let's make those eggs. We just won't put a lot of work into them. We're going to just make them kind of low quality. We're not going to make them, viable for fertilization. And so we see all these kind of symptoms, right, of potential hypothyroidism, is we see decreased ovulation, or, if we're going into kind of medical term, decreased egg quality, or losing my train of thought. But and then when we don't have those eggs, we're not going to end up producing progesterone. So progesterone ends up falling, and then we have this kind of estrogen progesterone imbalance going on, and again, this kind of cascade into this reproductive kind of mismatch of what should be going on. And so that in and of itself can very much delay or impair fertility. If you add on to that something like Hashimoto's, when we've got an autoimmune attack on the thyroid gland, again, Hashimoto's not being a thyroid problem, but being a problem with your immune system. Your immune system gets confused and overreactive, and it ends up attacking the thyroid cells. And then, yes, there's a glandular problem. We actually have a problem with the thyroid gland. Those immune kind of over responders are going to see anything foreign as potentially harmful, because that's their job. Their job is to protect you from these foreign invaders. And a potential embryo or a fertilized egg that does implant is, kind of a big risk there, because your immune system, when you first get pregnant, your immune system is extremely brilliant on protecting you from outside and also protecting the egg from the inside. But when we've got this immune kind of confusion going on, it just puts that egg at risk. So we can see higher miscarriage rates. And these thyroid antibodies are something that is certainly not checked regularly. Going back to just checking the TSH, maybe a T4 on a good day, or if it reflexes to T4 because TSH is too high, we'll see that. But if we don't get that full picture, we really cannot say at all from just a TSH alone, especially, how's your thyroid gland? Oh, it's fine. I don't know that. Not from a TSH. That, again, just tells me somebody's knocking on my door. Are you okay inside? I don't know. I didn't check you out. And same thing with the thyroid. So really looking at that full picture of a thyroid panel, all those 8 values, in not just in or in full, but in relation to each other, to look at ratios, to look at levels compared to each other, is really, really important to evaluate your fertility. Should be one of the first things checked.
Yeah. Well, and even just with the women I work with that aren't getting their period regularly, I won't say it's surprising, because it doesn't surprise me, but it is kind of amazing how many of them have low levels of thyroid hormone, like specifically free T3. And I hate to say the scary thing. It's not scary as much as it is like just shocking that doctors don't make this connection. So many of them have normal TSH and low free T3. And the doctor says, well, your TSH is normal, so your thyroid is fine. And for those people, for the women that have hypothalamic amenorrhea, usually caused by undereating, overexercising, high levels of stress, not sleeping enough, all the things, a lot of those petals that you just mentioned before, their brain is actively suppressing thyroid hormone. The brain doesn't want you to produce a lot of hormone in that case, because you're not giving it enough fuel. You're not, giving it the sleep and the stress management that it needs to feel safe. You're over exercising, which suppresses your T3 production as well. And so a lot of women are making all these choices that they think are quote unquote healthy, that are suppressing their hormone level, the actual thyroid hormone level, but it doesn't show up as a brain issue. Because like you said, the TSH comes from the brain. If the brain isn't telling the thyroid to produce more hormone, that doesn't mean that you have enough hormone. It just means that the brain isn't stimulating your thyroid excessively, if that makes sense. So, like you said, that could be its own podcast to talk about the difference between like traditional, what we think about hypothyroidism as high TSH. Maybe there's like an actual goiter, some kind of like physical issue with the thyroid gland itself. There can be like, the hypothalamic hypothyroidism where your brain is just not telling your thyroid to produce enough hormone. Again, you said the cellular response to the thyroid hormone and whether that's appropriate. So again, it gets I don't want to say it gets complicated to scare people, but I just want people to understand that it's not just, oh, your TSH is fine. You're fine. This isn't a problem. So hopefully that makes sense to people. And Jen, you did a great job of explaining that. So just to kind of build on that, because you said if they're even getting thyroid checked, a lot of times they're just looking at TSH, and TSH is not the full picture, and you can't make any sort of claim about thyroid health with just TSH. I know you've done a ton of work on identifying the appropriate types of labs to get done if somebody's dealing with unexplained infertility. So, and I haven't been through infertility myself, so I don't, have experience having to do all these tests or having to like advocate for myself or anything like that. But I have a lot of clients who have had to deal with it. And, as a practitioner, I've had to kind of like guide them behind the scenes to help them get the test that they need done from their doctor. But it is something where it's not really being done in most cases. Now, there might be some awesome doctors out there that do these full workups, and that's great. But for most of the conventional medical professionals out there, the standard workup is actually not really giving them the information that they need. So what is it about the standard fertility evaluation that is lacking when it comes to finding that root cause of unexplained infertility?
I think one of the biggest things is 90% of what it's focused on is just your reproductive area. And again, we've got to remember that that's one system within your body of dozens and dozens of systems and hundreds of chemicals, and more than that, communicators, and in all of this, we are this whole person. And to look just at this little, 8-inch window around our abdomen and maybe the hormones that are supposed to be speaking to that, it's not enough. It's just not, because when there's a problem there, whether it's, and I'm talking about a problem that's not totally a structural, damaged problem. If there is true structural damage, that's a whole nother issue. I'm talking, hormone miscommunication, out of balance and imbalances, things like that. And we've just got to step back from that one little specific area. And some of those things, as we talked about, decreased ovarian reserve, egg quality, even in males. I mean, I'm not gonna just put the woman here on the pedestal, because we don't want that all the time. This is like I said, this is a you journey, a plural journey. And I think this is just important for men to understand that sperm quality, when we look at statistics over the years, it has gone down and down and down. And there's so many issues there causing that. But all of these issues come into play as well. And in, a resource that I have for anyone, really, I address both of those. I say, this is not just for females, this is for males as well. And why? Why is this, the problem? And there again goes back to the question, when something is wrong or not working or not communicating like it should, we've got to ask why. And what are some of those why? Well, why is the thyroid, or could the thyroid not be communicating? Let's check it out. Let's look at this full panel. There's some other labs that I think are super important. Vitamin D. I don't like to use superlatives a lot, but I will in this case. Every single person I check when I do labs and I look at vitamin D, they're low. Vitamin D is something that is so, so important. Again, that's a hormone. We call it a vitamin because it's easier on a nutritional supplements, and to sell a vitamin than it is to sell a hormone. We freak out over hormones. But vitamin D is a communicator, and every cell in your body needs two things: thyroid hormone and vitamin D. There's receptors for both of those on every cell in your body. And so that's something that's, something that is very important to have checked and to make sure that it's within a very optimal level. The range on a lab is extremely vast. To me, what I look for is between about 50 and 80. 50 to 80. If we're talking about the 25, what's called 25 hydroxy vitamin D on a lab, that's the standard one that's run. And if that's low, again, we can look back into why. Are there some genetics there? Are there some conversion factors there? Things like that. But again, getting that standard check is really good. Even looking for other autoimmune diseases like celiac disease, that is sometimes I've tested a number of people on that one and come back with some genetics, at least that were there. They might not, immunologically, they're not showing that kind of progression into full celiac disease yet, like, full inflammatory kind of response against the gluten protein, but the genetics are there. They are primed for it. So knowing that, again, puts your body at a greater risk for, again, this kind of inflammation that's hidden, that we don't always correlate with a problem, but we just kind of blow off as other symptoms. So I think celiac disease is something that is way more prevalent now and really should be tested. Some other vitamin things, you mentioned the conversion, and there's so many that are important for thyroid. Iron levels, those are usually checked for pregnancy and moving into especially your first few weeks to months of pregnancy. But B12, folate, making sure when you're supplementing that you're supplementing with the right forms for you. If people don't know their genetics on those, or if I look at some other labs like a basic metabolic panel or some of the comprehensive metabolic panels, and we look at things like your red blood cells and your hemoglobin and things like that, are showing that, again, looking to ratios, looking to connect puzzle pieces or dots in the puzzle, that can be a reason for some of those B vitamin deficiencies. Those are a must during those early weeks and days of massive cell reproduction, division, and things like that. And if we don't have a lot of those factors in our bodies as those cells are dividing, your body's going to get up to a certain point and go, I'm out of resources. I don't have enough left. And that's where we see maybe either pregnancy losses or, even a infertilized egg or a fertilized egg that didn't implant well, that never even made it to a viable or clinical pregnancy. But we see kind of those, fertility struggles just because we're deficient in some of those nutrients. And it can be sometimes from just not taking the right forms of those vitamins. So those are a couple. Blood sugar, I think, is really important too. Not just knowing where your blood sugar is, but how hard is your body working to get it to that level. And that's where we look deeper into things like insulin levels. What is your fasting insulin? That's the hormone. Again, hormones are they're life-giving, that works to lower your blood sugar. And if your blood sugar is great, but your insulin is having to work just overtime and 10 times what it, should be, then we know there's some problem there and there's some stress there. And any stress we can take off of the body so it can divert its energy to the right things, in this case, a new life, the better and the more successful that those attempts at pregnancy and fertilization and implantation and baby will be. So really looking deeper into these things that metabolically, hormonally, nutrient-wise, are absolutely necessary for that egg to not just implant and grow in those early stages, but to sustain it through throughout the pregnancy.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any perspective on why these tests aren't done more regularly, other than just money?
Yeah,
which is crazy because fertility treatment can get so expensive, and it's like the insurance will cover $60,000 for a successful IVF treatment, but then, doing these labs doesn't get covered. So is it just about money, or do you feel like there's any other reason why?
If it's about money, we've got everything backwards, because what I am able to get for my clients, even not even involving insurance, is extremely low and extremely doable. And I'm just going to be honest, I've paid, when I've run certain labs through my doctor for insurance, I pay more that way than I can, provide this resource and this amazing just panel to my clients without even involving insurance. And let's just do it. Let's just get these answers. It's one blood draw. I wish I knew. Well, I don't want to throw, again, we're not throwing doctors under the bus. We're not saying medical teams and whatnot are not doing their job. They are, but their job involves something different than this, if we want to use these words, functional looks, into nutrition, into fertility take, because we're looking deeper into the why. And that's what I do. I ask why. Okay, this is this way. Why? Let's go backwards before we go forwards. In the conventional world, they say, okay, here's this wrong value. Okay, well, let's treat it with this. We move quickly forward before we pause and take a step backwards. I don't know if it's partly just, let's keep moving, let's do it faster. Whereas sometimes it doesn't mean we need to move fast. It means we need to move purposefully, and we need to move with intention and with the right tools. So we know we're fixing and not fixing, but we are working with the right things that need to be addressed, and working with things that will be helped. We're going to nourish the body. We're going to help the body do what it needs to do, instead of using procedures, medications, whatnot. That's in my past too. I get it. That hijack the body and that begin to control the body and try to force it into something that it's not doing naturally. Well, if it's not doing it naturally, what is forcing it going to do? It's probably not going to do it well if it does it at all. And, to me, that's the why there is. They're just not asking the same questions as, a different practitioner would. And that's, why is this here? Why is this there? Why is this level not where it needs to be? Let's look back into what we know is communicating with this that could be the problem. And that's kind of, I think, the difference there. I wish I knew why. I wish that this would be standard, because I think it would save a lot of people, not just time, because I don't think we need to rush into parenthood and having a baby. But I think what it'll do is add a lot of joy back to your journey, and that's what I wish I had. That's what I wish I could have years ago had, this full thing, this full panel that showed these kind of missing links in my chain, or broken links in the chain that just needed to be addressed. Like I say, you're not broken. There's just a part of you that needs a little bit more love than we realize. And we need to provide that individualized kind of love to whatever it is that's not working like it should. So I wish I knew the why. I think another reason is, now we're working so much on diagnoses, and fertility and infertility has this diagnosis of these hormone levels and these procedures and whatnot. And it doesn't, vitamin D, what does that mean? That doesn't fit into this box right now. And celiac disease, that has nothing to do with, fertility. It doesn't affect this and affect that, so they think. So it just doesn't fit under these codes and insurance, allowances. And I think that's honestly one reason too.
Yeah, well, and when I mentioned the money thing, I was more thinking about the insurance piece, because I don't think doctors are like, I don't want to do this because it costs money. That would be like a silly reason to not do it. But if an insurance company won't cover it, that can, like you said, get pretty expensive for the client. Or, doctors ordering labs that are not like part of the standard of care already, they can get in trouble from the insurance companies, which in my mind is crazy. It's like, why would the insurance company rather them go straight to these expensive medical treatments? And again, if that's necessary, it's necessary. But to go straight there instead of doing some of this investigative work, that could probably save a lot of people from ever having to get to those medical treatments. To me, it just doesn't make sense. But again, it's unfortunately the way our medical system in this country is set up, because of the way insurance works and because it's got to like fit in those boxes that you were mentioning. It just doesn't always work out that way. And, the standard of care for quote unquote infertility is not the same as the functional approach to let's figure out the root cause here.
Yeah. I mean, and I've even had conversations with doctors' offices before when I've called on a patient's behalf, on a client's behalf, to say, can you please run this full panel? Because I would honestly rather them run all these labs with their doctor, so their doctor can have eyes on them, so their doctor can have it under his watch, her watch, and do it that way. And if their doctor refuses or doesn't do it, yes, I'll be happy to include these in our time together, because that's why I want to provide that resource for them. And I've called doctors' offices before saying, can you please add this to her next visit or whatnot? And I get that, exactly what you said. Well, they don't have that. They're not diagnosed with hypothyroidism. Okay, well, that's what I want to prevent. Can we please run these labs besides just the TSH that you're planning? And the answer is a flat no. We won't do this because insurance. So they're waiting for a diagnosis because that's what gets coverage. So the allopathic model, I mean, and that goes back to, I guess, the foundation of it, is based on treating disease and treating diagnosis, whereas the functional model is based on preventing. You can't measure prevention, because if I nourish myself in this way, that way, in all these ways, and I never get diseases X, Y, and Z, well, was I really going to get them anyway if I lived haphazardly and ate whatever I wanted to eat? I don't know. I can't measure that prevention. But if I get the disease, then I can measure how I can decrease my levels after I've been diagnosed with it. So it's kind of a backwards approach. It's based on disease management versus health, preserving health and preventing disease. And that, to me, I guess, is the ultimate why there is, that's how it fits in their model.
Yeah. Well, and it's crazy with the thyroid piece. You would think to diagnose, you need to know what the hormone levels are.
Exactly. Right? And that's what I didn't understand. And finally, I just kind of ended the conversation. I was like, okay, we're done. Because it wasn't going anywhere, and it wasn't going to be a yes. So we just said, okay, we'll do them on our own. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and luckily for most people, that's an option. I know there's a couple states in the United States that are weird about it, which is like so ridiculous. But most states, you can order things for yourself, and you do have to pay out of pocket for them. Hopefully, I don't know. I always feel like the functional medicine world is hopefully leading the way for the allopathic world to kind of follow. But for me, I just think like the money you might save with the treatments, the money you might save with, any sort of complications that might arise if you aren't taking care of your body's needs. Because like you were saying with thyroid issues, that increases your risk for miscarriage. So if you go and get this IVF treatment and get pregnant and you have an untreated thyroid issue, that could lead to a miscarriage. And I always say to my clients, I'm like, listen, even if you end up needing the medication, we want to do everything that we can to reduce the risk. It's not your fault if it happens, because I think that's something we have to be real careful about, like making it sound like if it happens, it meant you did something wrong. But if we know certain things increase the risk of miscarriage, then we need to address them. We can't just ignore them. So the fact that you have to, it's like backwards where, you have to already be diagnosed with hypothyroidism to test your thyroid hormones. It's like, well, that doesn't really make sense. So I think it's, if it were me, and I don't know what my timeline is as far as getting pregnant is concerned, but if and when that ever comes up, I know I will be doing a full thyroid evaluation before even trying, because it's just something that's that important. It's not something anyone should ignore. I hope doctors will start doing it automatically, but until then, we have to be our own advocates. And I hope that this episode today helps the women that are listening be their own advocate for the stuff that they need. And you can totally come to Jen for getting help to help you be an advocate, because again, it's not, if you don't know what you're supposed to be asking for, it's very difficult to get what you need. So I feel like I could talk to you about this forever, but I want to give some people some options for next steps, especially if they're dealing with this, if they know someone that's dealing with this, just to give them some resources and some support in getting the help that they want and need, and make sure they're getting the full picture. So what would you suggest someone do? And I know you have some resources that you can share with the listeners on this. So do you want to let them know about your guide that you have?
Yeah, sure. This is it's a functional lab guide, what I call to explaining your unexplained, in quotes, infertility. So it really goes through some of these labs that we talked about today. I cover all the basic labs that you should have had done at this point before they use the word infertility on you, because that's the other thing, that some of people haven't even gone through this whole basic, what I would call really, workup, if that's the word we want to use, before they've been diagnosed or given this kind of label, infertile or infertility. So I go over all the basics of here's what you should have had done, here's why, and kind of how that plays into looking at you as a whole, females and males. I touch on the spouses here, the partners here. And then the bulk, the robustness of this resource is going through all these functional labs that I talked about. And that's the full thyroid panel. I break down each of the things and why do you need them? Why does it affect specifically your infertility and your fertility struggles? Vitamin D, celiac disease, a couple of the B vitamins, homocysteine, showing, your levels there. So I break it all down. And it's got even a little kind of personalized lab kind of history in there for you. So you can mark off when you did have them done, what my levels were. So you can see over time. And there's kind of a plug too. Whenever you get labs done, get hard copies of those results. Don't ever, ever, ever let a doctor just say everything was normal. Say, okay, maybe you'll have access online on your portal, or if you can print out a hard copy, keep those results, because here's the important thing too, is looking at them over history. You might be today, it might look okay, but it might have come way far from where you used to be. So anyway, that's a little side plug there, but yeah, the guide is really great. It's very thorough, it's very comprehensive, and hopefully at the end of the day, just very helpful. So you can advocate for yourself and know not just what, but why. And that's what I really wanted to provide there. And it's at my website. It's just jenniferzucconi.com/guide. So that's where you get it.
Awesome. Well, I've seen the guide. It is amazing. And it's something that I think any woman who's even thinking about getting pregnant, let alone struggling getting pregnant, should be aware of and should have that as a resource. Like you said, it's something that most doctors are not doing for you, and having that power to know what you need to be testing and to be able to track those tests and watch for patterns. And it's a complicated topic. I don't want anyone to think that this is something that you should be able to do completely on your own. I think the guide is a really good place to start understanding what to ask for and what to look for and that kind of thing. But ultimately, whether you're working with Jennifer or somebody else, having someone to support you through this process is so, so important. And I can't speak for all fertility clinics, but from my experience, most of them are not providing this depth of service. And if they are, then they're a really advanced clinic. So if you're not experiencing the level of support that you want to experience in your fertility journey, then definitely reach out to somebody, get that support, get that holistic view, and make sure that you're not missing something that could be a really simple fix that could save you a ton of time, ton of energy, ton of money, and ton of, pain, not getting pregnant on the timeline that you were hoping for. So, Jennifer, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And is there any last words of wisdom or anything you want to share with the listeners before we wrap things up?
Gosh, you reminded me of just something too, and I'll just reinforce, you are not alone on this journey. You're not alone. And that, again, in my kind of, if you go back to those petals, that relationship element is so, so important for me, for my clients, for everyone, because when you hear that word again, when you hear that, you feel that struggle, when you feel the inadequacy, when you feel the brokenness, when you feel it deeply, you don't want to tell anybody. And sometimes the hardest thing to do is to open up about it, but sometimes that's the best thing to do. And maybe it's a trusted friend. Maybe it is somebody, certified counselor or therapist. Maybe it's, it's not easy to find that person. I'm not saying, just go find that person either. Nothing is easy necessarily, but it's so important. And so I would definitely say, please don't do this on your own. I'm always a phone call away too, to just have a conversation to say, hey, here's what I think. And just getting some of those second opinions too. If you're working with a doctor that you like, but you feel like you keep hitting the same wall over and over again, looking for that second opinion and just to get another voice speaking into it, because this is a very emotional journey. It's a very tough journey, and it's definitely not one to do on your own. So. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I love your passion for helping women have more joy throughout the process. Mm-hmm. So it's awesome. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you? Either your website, social media, all the things that they can get more from you and learn from you.
Yeah, my website is just my name, jenniferzucconi.com. And on all the socials, I'm Gen Z Nutrition. So just JENZ Nutrition. That's where I'm at.
Awesome. Well, we will link to all that in the show notes for today. Thank you so much for sharing this, Jennifer. It was really awesome to get to chat in more detail about the work that you do. I know we talk about it relatively frequently just from a business perspective, but just from more of that functional medicine, holistic nutrition perspective. I think it's really awesome to see the work that you're doing, and the level of depth that you go for your clients is really inspiring, especially for anyone who's listening who is a nutritionist or a healthcare provider who wants to help their clients in this way. It's really good to see other practitioners that are taking it to that level and supporting their clients. So thank you again for joining me, Jen.
Thanks for having me. So happy to be here.
Awesome. And for all of you listening, thanks for spending this time with us. We will see you here next week on the Fed and Fearless podcast. Take care, everybody. Are you a dietitian or nutritionist business owner that wants to create an online business that attracts, converts, and serves your dream clients? Then keep listening, because I have a special opportunity that will help you create the profitable, joy-filled nutrition business that you always wanted. In my signature group coaching program, the Nutrition Business Accelerator, you'll learn how to start, grow, and scale your online nutrition business to 6 figures and beyond, so you can experience the financial and time freedom that you desire. Inside the program, you'll learn how to attract high-paying clients who are excited to work with you and willing to pay you the rates you deserve. You'll get training on how to effectively sell your services in a way that feels authentic and converts prospects into paying clients without feeling pushy or salesy. And you'll get step-by-step instructions on how to create programs and services that provide transformative results, leading to glowing testimonials and referrals from your current clients, so you can have the greater impact that you desire in the world around you. You'll also learn how to manage your time, energy, and resources, so you can get more done in less time and experience the time freedom that you started your business to experience. Want to make this your reality? The Nutrition Business Accelerator is your pathway to achieve all of this and more. Get the proven strategy that has helped dozens of business owners grow their online nutrition business to $5,000 and $10,000 months and beyond. Inside the program, you'll get mentorship and guidance from me, a compassionate coach who's built her own multi-6-figure online nutrition business. So that way you never have to feel stuck in your business again. I created this program to help struggling dietitian and nutrition entrepreneurs get clarity on who they serve, how they serve them, and how they can stand out in a crowded market so they can more easily attract dream high-paying clients into their online nutrition business. If this sounds like something you're interested in, go to lauraschoenfeldrd.com/NBA to learn more about the program and get on the wait list. That's lauraschoenfeldrd.com/NBA, which is short for Nutrition Business Accelerator. Doors are opening soon, and you don't want to miss out on this one-of-a-kind business coaching opportunity. Let's accelerate your nutrition business together. I'll see you in the program.